Hey everybody, here's a quick announcement. The Reality Escape Convention is on this weekend. Have you got tickets? If you haven't got tickets, follow the link below, get tickets, go to Recon. Recon is a fantastic escape room and immersive theatre convention. It's all done remotely through Discord. It's fantastic. There are great shows. There are great talks. It's a really wonderful community building event. And if you like puzzles, make puzzles, enjoy escape rooms, have never played an escape room but like this show, you should be going to Recon. Not only that, but we are doing a live show of Escape This Podcast. It is happening on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For us in Australia, that's 10 a.m. on Monday morning. We are doing a live show, an entirely original escape room that is also going to be exclusive to Recon. So if you want to be part of that, you should be going to Recon. And not only that, it's live enough that there'll be audience interaction and you can help solve the puzzles and help our guests get through the room. It should be a lot of fun. The entire event is going to be amazing. All the links you need are in the show notes below. Go and check it out, and we'll see you there. Bye. Welcome to the Autopsy for the Hairdresser Homicide. I am your state coroner, Bill.
Oh, no.
You didn't expect this. Chief medical
I
examiner?
don't know, I'm the body.
Danny's the body. We've started doing these. We did one for Rope and the Rich Kids. We're doing another one for the Hairdresser Homicide. This is what we're calling an autopsy. We're going to go back through the murder mystery that we did and
debrief it.
Yeah, debrief a little bit.
Okay, so first things first, apparently the big discussion that we need to have is the fact that we have accents.
Okay, are we going straight into that? Is that first things first?
I think it's the most important thing that we have to cover.
We got a lot of guesses from people, a lot of like theories and engagement with people emailing in
You should
saying
probably say spoilers if you, don't listen to this if you haven't listened to the mystery. That would be strange.
Good point. Spoilers. This whole thing will be spoiling everything, so come on. We got a lot of emails in from people saying, their guesses, their thoughts, their theories. And there was one very, very consistent issue, which is that a lot of people were referencing a character that doesn't exist. Everyone said, it was probably Molly. I said, Molly? Who's Molly?
The first time we saw that, just stared at it for a while, going, oh no. What did we put into this episode that we've forgotten?
Yeah, what funny side character did we invent called Molly?
Johnny Cools and girlfriend
Molly Cools. Their boyfriend and girlfriend share a surname. No. And that's because we got to talk about accents. So there's a thing in the US called a cot-court merger. Which is that if you say cot and court, they say, I don't think, is this a court merger? I don't know.
What clearly it is.
Yeah, what it is there's a character in this called Marley Fenwick. That is Marley. Marley Fenwick. That's her name. It's Marley. Now, for us, that sounds very different than Molly.
Quite clear.
They're
However,
very different vowel sounds.
We understand now exactly how identical those names can be with certain North American accents.
So,
but that threw us a lot, and we thought, oh, what a funny one-off thing.
Yeah, what a funny one-off.
And then another one came and
I don't think any single person emailed in.
There were a couple of Mollies.
Yes, they were all British people. So yes, for some reason that's our first point of the day.
There were definitely more Mollies than Marlies, and
the character's name was Marley.
That was quite something for us. So thank you.
Marley. It was Marley Fenwick, not Marley Fenwick. Marley
please
Fenwick.
Stop.
Julian, come on. So yeah, I don't know why Danny decided that was the first point, but yes, that is the first point. That was the character's name.
That's all I got in my head, and it's the one thing we can't... I don't know, everything else is going to be about me, so I thought I would shine it outwards for a while.
Okay, that being said, welcome. We enjoyed all of your emails. They were lovely. A lot of you did very well. Do we start with who was the detective of that arc? Do we crown the detective now and then start talking about how we recorded it?
Suspense.
Is that okay? Well,
yeah.
All right. I guess we'll talk about people's guesses at the end.
We'll put it right in the middle so that you have to listen.
You can't jump anywhere. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's talk about this. I really enjoyed doing this recording.
The process of doing it went a lot better than other ones.
Now, I think we explained in the last autopsy our issues that we had discovered, and we had uncovered the fact that we were viewing the final kind of media version of this murder mystery differently in our heads, in a subtle way. And that I wanted to follow it a bit more like a police procedural, in which one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, and you follow this chain of clues and insinuations until you find the end. Kind of a more TV, but even like TV mysteries will often be like that.
True.
Whereas Danny pictured it more like an actual mystery or a murder mystery or basically all the other forms of murder mystery entertainment.
Just where every time you get a clue, you pack it away with your other clues.
Yeah, and then later on you open that chest of clues and you look through and you figure that out.
And you link them.
So we thought in our last session that was an issue that was causing us problems when we were recording. And I think that's correct, because when we came into this one, it felt good pretty much like the whole time, in terms of like we both understood now what the point was. And I knew how to look, and I knew what I was collecting, and I wasn't just jumping straight to the next implication. It was trying to collect all the evidence in that same sort of red stringing method, but just constantly. There was an actual red string scene in this arc at one point, but it wasn't as pronounced. But it was that feeling the whole way through. I was collecting information. Like I have here my little box, I can see it in my notes in front of me. I have my little box of pinned concepts. There was a supply run, put a pin in that. There was like Maddox, put a pin in that. Clients, put a pin in that. Lotion analysis, put a pin in that. Fiona Sainsbury, put a pin in that. Like I was collecting these additional topics of questioning or things to follow up on, but I wasn't jumping away from what I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was still interviewing all the people I needed to. I think it also helped in this one that you segmented the people a little bit more. Like often,
very much so,
right? Because in this one, often a mystery starts, and I'll have 8 people to talk to,
and then your order really determines the success or flatness of the overall arc.
You can't really
solution.
Control it, right? It's arbitrary who I pick as one of my 8.
Yeah,
and so often we've had mysteries in the past where, spoiler alert for previous mysteries without any specifics, I won't talk to the murderer until the final episode because I've tried to fully follow up on every one of the first 7 people who all had these long paths that I started following. But this was nice because I started with 2 people.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have a list here. In my notes, right at the bottom of my 2-page spread of notes. This was only a 2-page spread of notes for this episode, which is quite something. But yeah, right at the bottom of the final page, I've written a little section called Detective's Path, which is just a series of 11 dot points, the order that I predicted that you could or should get through things. So it may not have turned out exactly like this, but it was how I was trying to roughly control it for pacing in a way that would end up satisfying.
And it worked. I think it is nice that you have a bit more, because the issue is always that you have no knowledge of where or what beats I'm going to hit.
Yeah.
And so you don't know if it's...
So you know what? This is great, a murder mystery, and trying to give you free form. It's still a podcast. We still want it to sound good. So I will know a little bit more about where I'm trying to lead you.
And I didn't feel like led or controlled. Like it just felt like a natural progression of stuff. Like
do you want to know what my path was?
Please, what is your path?
All right, first one, just enter crime scene and investigate.
Obviously.
Fair enough. 2 witnesses plus policeman that you can question.
Johnny Cools, yeah.
Yeah, apparently I had planned for that. I didn't realize.
Good.
Then learn about Fiona's appointment.
Okay.
I don't know if that was specifically the order that happens, but fair enough. Then Anthony enters unprompted. So that was you being able to find out about him as a character. Learn about Rival. That was the one that sort of floated around in terms of where it ended up going. And as you can see, didn't have a name for him.
No, but what I will say, which is interesting, is that you still maintained that order a little bit in a way that didn't feel too, is that I had found out about the Rival. I had booked in a conversation with the Rival. And then as I was leaving, that day was when Anthony arrived.
Okay.
So you can still, because
I was still trying, for whatever reason, I felt it was important to get Anthony out before
Because as you are reading this, I'm looking at my notes.
And they're matching?
Pearl Flint interview, Marley Fenwick interview, crime scene, because I did more exploring in the crime scene. It started with crime scene stuff.
Yeah.
Fiona Sainsbury,
hey.
Anthony Sachs, Maddox.
How about that?
America?
Oh, who was America?
Who was America?
Oh, we named someone. That was someone on the phone. That was just that was Lab Girl, right?
Lab Girl, America.
That was interesting. I didn't specify anything about Lab Girl, so that must have just been something I decided was important because you were so unsure about what was going on with the body that I wanted to add some clarity.
We wanted some in-world autopsy stuff.
All right, then, okay, so after learn about Rival, police search for them, try to look for these people, but can't find Fiona properly. And so, that was when you immediately said, all right, try to call Fiona, which, fantastic.
Yeah.
So then I could say, she has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I loved that moment. I really enjoyed that. That's a fun aspect of mystery and planning and like conspiracy. It worked out really well, the Fiona stuff.
Yeah, now here's an interesting one. Free time with Pearl, learn about Anthony. So actually that ended up happening the other way around. You had conversations with Anthony where you learned about the relationship with Pearl as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
I clearly wanted you to get a little closer to Pearl.
Though I think that made sense because, like, for Pearl, I had something concrete to talk with her about because she was there, she saw the body, so my questioning didn't go to other elements of her life as much, whereas Anthony wasn't there, so it's like, what are we going to talk about?
All his connection was life.
Exactly. So because we were based on like, well, what are your connections? Do you have connections to all these people? Like, I know Pearl's connections. She works there. Like, Anthony, do you know this person? Do you know that person?
Now,
do you know...
I can't remember. Did you pick up or did I have to give you an oblique hint for why is Anthony here? Why has he shown up?
I believe you had to give me... I don't know if it stayed in the episode. Maybe I wanted to make myself look smarter. But no, I believe you did have like a bit of a like, okay, so, there's something you haven't asked him yet. And that was then me thinking, okay, well, oh, like why? Like, how does he know?
Exactly, because he knew that something had happened.
Yes, and that was what opened the door to the okay, how did he know? He's texting with Pearl. He's doing this, that, and the other. My biggest issue of like character understanding was figuring out exactly what Pearl's relationship was with computers in general. Because she was like good enough on computer to get me into the emails, but bad enough on computer that her security wasn't very good. She was like talented but sloppy.
Brilliant but lazy.
Brilliant but late. I prefer talented but sloppy.
Yeah, but I'm quoting Spider-Man too.
Yeah, and I am protecting us from copyright claims.
All right. After which was something that didn't happen at all in this order, and I don't know why I thought it would. I have police get financial records of businesses.
Oh, interesting. Well, I went into like business records.
Yeah, you definitely were looking into that sort of thing. I'm just not sure why I placed that there and why I thought that would be an important thing for you to do in those various places. I suppose I was building up on the idea of the Maddox having a rival hairdresser, and maybe you'd be interested in seeing how were they going against each other.
Yeah,
was
true,
there anything to that? But I clearly didn't push that. Then I have Fiona comes in after seeing news about it. Then some hacking can be done.
Interesting that you have it there, because I presumably could have done that early on as well.
Probably, but
like I knew she was on computer. She even got me onto the computer to look at Maddox's info. That was the moment I could be like, "Can you get me into her emails?" I could have done that very much out of order. I don't know if it would have. No, probably would have very much changed the dynamic.
It would have made you understand Fiona a little bit more. But because that's pretty much most of the information that came there. The idea that Olivia knew that stuff was happening behind her back.
It would have changed the focus of my questioning, because if I'd gotten early on, like, someone is trying to do something, like someone is changing, then it would have been like, wait a minute. Ooh, wait. And I would have like found like, because it was one of those things where retrospectively, once I figured out that there was this Vera character and that they were basically doing a sting operation, then I was like, oh my gosh, like, look at this. She'd been doing this. She'd changed out the order for something else. Like maybe, Molly
I wonder how it would have turned out.
was messing with stuff.
But again, clearly, I only expected you to mess around with the computer right at the end. Fascinating. And then my last dot point is solve ?
You should cross out those question marks. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's interesting because like this, more so than any other one that we've done, clearly followed your path very, very quite well.
So the more railroady I am, the better I am at this.
But it didn't feel railroady.
That's what you always hope.
It was just that you kind of knew.
That seems to be my sweet spot when GMing stuff, doesn't it?
Well, it's true, but like, but it's also because you can be a little bit railroady because it's like, if you control the starting information, you also know what information is going to come out. Like, you would think. Well, not necessarily what's going to come out, but you know what's true. So you can then be like, because you get to decide on truth, and then So I think this drip feeding of people into the scene was a lot better.
For sure.
Because you could control my first steps. And once you can control the first steps a bit more.
Yeah, but I didn't leave their introduction too ridiculously late. So they all still, at the very least, if not guilty, were relevant. Like Fiona, the actual friend who was faking being Fiona, I don't know if you ever really suspected her as having done the murder, but her introduction and chatting with her, which was the last person introduced, I believe, that did clarify what was going on. So that opened up the mystery.
Exactly.
Which is the best thing for a late game character to do.
Yeah, because I remember being near the end of this. Look, we recorded this ages ago, by the way, everyone. This is
some weeks ago.
I know the final episode came out last week, but we record them in bulk, edit them all, and then release them per week. And so it's been quite a while since we've done this.
We would have
recording.
done the autopsy right away, but we wanted to wait and see what people's emails said.
Exactly. Because we had this moment of like, I'm pretty sure we got to a point where it's like, I know exactly what happened. Like, I can tell you like step for step the exact murder and how it went down, but I don't know why. Like, I don't have the motive, and therefore I can't place the person. And it was this like figuring out why it happened was this final puzzle piece. And so adding in the Vera element and adding in the, I see, like, something was going on. Somebody was trying to go against the business. It's a business issue because here's what was going on behind the scenes.
And then what you needed and what we really struggled with was the idea of getting all of this information out, but then having a denouement scene that didn't just feel rehashy and kind of muddled. So what we came up with as an idea together was there needed to be some sort of piece of confirmation evidence that and we played around with it a little bit here because this didn't end up quite in the final episode. We edited around you making this phone call.
Yes,
at the end.
so this is interesting. So we actually and we didn't do it out of character. In character, we went through a phone call of Detective Bill to the
business licensing,
the business
bureau
license
people,
so that I could get my confirmation. I think in the episode it's literally just I'm going to make a phone call and it cuts to the denouement.
Very frustrating Poirot.
I made the exact, but it's that exact thing from like a Poirot book where he goes, "Mon ami, I'll just go and call this person," and then he does, and then you don't know what's going on, and Hastings is like, "Oh, it's a ridiculous idea. I've never even understood this old man," and then he comes back and he says, "Well, here's what I was doing."
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed being able to do that because I got to play it, but we also got to present it in that like the proper way you should in fiction of like. Yeah. Because otherwise, if people get the confirmation...
so much better.
Right? But if the listeners immediately get the confirmation at the same time I do, the denouement becomes boring.
Exactly.
But if I don't get the confirmation,
then
which we
it's
had before...
shaky, and it's always felt weird.
Exactly. Sometimes they go into the denouement thinking like, I know who did it, but I can't really prove that. So as soon as they say no, I'm just like, oh, well... I guess you go home, which is often the case in real murder mysteries where they're like, it was you, wasn't it? And all the person has to say is, nope, it wasn't. Sorry, you can't prove that. And then walk away. But instead they go, you found out my secrets and I'll admit to everything. Yeah. Quickly, everybody get your tape recorders out. Yeah. I need to give my sad, angry speech.
And quite frankly, in every one of these, I have not known how to make the murderer respond. So I'm glad in this episode, the response was Johnny Cools tases them.
That was also
so that I don't have to think of it. So I think they should all end with that from now on.
I, in terms of like the structure of it, I do think they should all end like this in general.
Yeah.
I really liked going in with absolute certainty that I was right because I had
feels
something
like we should give
to
you a
confirm
meme like you've been just talking on your regular phone, but when it comes to this final phone call, you pull out your special
my special
phone.
denouement phone. It was the most comfortable I have felt in a denouement without any sense of like you first think. I could be comfortable if I was just given the answer, but that wouldn't be satisfying. This also felt satisfying. Like I felt like I did it. Like I solved it. I knew what to do. I knew what to...
And it's interesting because up until like episode 4, you were, again, still in the shaky ground, quite confident that the only person that made sense was Anthony.
Yeah. Yes, I had a very big Anthony accusing moment. I think there's an entire episode that's just me slowly accusing Anthony in my head. That is true. That's true.
But yeah, I felt very good. So thank you, listeners, if you've been with us for a while now, for going through this learning process with us of how to make this show work.
I think.
And it's getting there.
I think every episode gets better and better. Yeah. Every mystery.
For sure.
But this one I really liked, and I feel so... I just felt good about it the whole way through. Both about playing the game that you've created for me, and also like... thinking like this is good audio. Like people are going to like this. I hope they did. If you didn't like this, you're not listening to the autopsy, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, fair.
Imagine just listening to the autopsy.
That's baffling.
Maybe people do. Maybe they got bored of listening and they've jumped to the autopsy because they want to hear the solution. We haven't even said it.
No,
we warned you about spoilers. You haven't said it. Go back to the denouement.
We've done spoilers.
Why would you skip to the autopsy? You got to skip to the denouement. Go back an episode.
So there were a couple of things still that I end up improvising or that I mention that end up feeling like they have more significance than I expected. That's definitely been a thing. One, anything that involved knowledge about hairdressing.
Yep.
Some people who put in emails just know more about it than I do. Or even simple physics, like why is her hair still wet after several hours? That seems suspicious. To which I go, oh, really? My hair stays wet for ages.
That is the hardest thing. Like when you get, because we get emails in that do that. They'll be like, actually, if a body had been on the beach for that long, here's what would have happened, which means technically.
Sunburn paradox.
Yeah.
Do dead bodies sunburn?
And so it's kind of like,
Fantastic
sorry,
question.
we just don't know how the real world works sometimes, Sometimes that happens.
That's fiction. Look at the writers that have actual paid writing jobs out there. I think we're doing okay
we're doing fine.
in comparison.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, so things like that. But then there were other things like I kept emphasizing like that there was air freshener smell in the room, and I was just trying to get you under the impression that someone had cleaned up and overdone it with air freshener, trying to cover up that a murder had happened, so that people wouldn't immediately walk in and smell blood smell and things like that. But people thought that was a really significant thing. And then things like, you believed for a while, and other people did, that the body hadn't been, that she hadn't been murdered here.
Yeah, because it was too clean.
Exactly, and things like that. And that was very much a sticking point for a lot, and I felt bad about that. But then I've already done a moved body before, so I wasn't thinking of doing it again. But yeah, so that was definitely one that people focused on that I felt a bit bad for emphasizing a little too much. Also, the big one, freaking Maddox, is stupid lost book story, or the stolen book story.
You made that up on the spot?
Completely on the spot. I didn't even give Maddox a name in my notes.
Why not? What is wrong with you? He's Maddox.
I don't know. He's only on like the fourth last of my dot points of existence. All I have there is Liv's old rival claims falsely that Liv used to be a client thief and the industry is cutthroat. She must have pissed off the wrong person this time. That was all I had on Maddox outside of airtight alibi, but new business name, Regid, with a guarantor. So that was all that existed for Maddox.
Here are my notes on Maddox. Fur, snakeskin, cool weirdo. Nirvana, until 10:33 a.m. was in rehab. 1995, they were apprenticing. Guillermo del Lobos. Liv stole his notebook and his skills. Nirvana is struggling. Those are my Maddox base notes.
Yeah, quite something. That just developed out of nowhere. And again, you might have noticed my problem with improving a character, which is that, well, he was one of the guilty parties and his name immediately started with M.
We can't let people in on this secret.
I have to, because it's not intentional. I had no idea it was happening. Like, I started with names, I'm pretty sure. I didn't even, like, come up with who the murderer was until I had already come up with their names and who they were. And yet, both of the guilty parties were M's. I don't know how it happened.
And the victim's name was Liv Victim?
I don't understand. It makes no sense.
Maybe it's just, that's just happens sometimes.
Yeah, but I have acknowledged it, and I know that it's a problem I have. I should have just swapped names around or something. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so this is a common issue. In Roping the Rich Kids, the victim's name was Vicky.
Also, I made the friend Vera again. I just love these letters, apparently.
You have a very V versus M antagonistic writing style.
So.
All right, so overall, going through it, I don't know if there's too much more to talk about in terms of like our actual kind of gameplay of it. I got a little bit obsessed with like my biggest issue in Solvent was my constant misreading of Pearl's character. Like how involved, does she want a relationship with Anthony? Does she not? Is she a spy? The
spy thing.
People
was
very much liked my idea that she was a plant.
That was very true as a thing, and she was definitely one of the more popular guesses as well. And I suppose it's fair enough that of the two most frequent guesses, they were Marley and Pearl, the first two introduced, the closest physically to the scene. It made sense that people would go to her. But yeah, a lot of people very set on Pearl being guilty.
But that's also good. That's kind of part of the murder mystery thing, because she wasn't so obvious as a suspect that, like, her not being the suspect felt like you were lying.
Yeah,
but it was just, she was suspicious enough early on that people could be like, maybe it was Pearl, maybe it was more interesting.
This is the one thing
it was the right level, I think.
I feel I could balance in a slightly different way, as some books do, because a lot of Agatha Christie's, they do pinpoint one person and say, surely this person is the murderer, everything is pointing to them, and then whether it is or not ends up being the focus of the book. That is not something that I'm amazing at this stage, but maybe I'll be able to get there. Maybe I can mess with that a little.
If it's what you want to,
too much. Yeah,
you can work towards it.
We'll find out. But yeah, so all I really wanted with Pearl was the character who, brilliant but lazy. Someone who is good at stuff but doesn't actually care about what they're doing there. But people very much took that to mean
slimy yet satisfying.
That she had more underhanded motives and another thing that she was doing secretly.
Yes, yeah, it felt like she was...
knows about hairdressing but doesn't care about it because she's related to someone else.
Exactly.
Or,
but it's just like, no, it's just who she is.
Yeah. So that was
but it wasn't like... it wasn't unsatisfying that it wasn't her. Like, it didn't feel like, I feel so betrayed, that was my guess. And like, it just evolved in a nice way, and that she was just a character. Like, if anybody in that denouement was going to say, you got played, and fill that role, it would have been Pearl.
I think I kind of end up doing that. That's one of the archetypes that I create in my stories. A little bit. I just kind of think cool young female tends to be one of the characters I throw in there a lot.
But no, I really enjoyed it. I think my issue still is, and I was better in this one, but I think still, like, using the characters to help flesh out the other characters, to spend more time being like, Marley, what's your opinion of Pearl? Or, Marley, do you know Anthony? Like, does he come in often? Do you have a relationship with him? To be able to see characters from that third perspective. It's like their own telling of themselves, my interpretation of who they are, and then other people's colouring to fill in the gaps between those things, or to elicit new questions, is still the one thing that I would work on for myself as an investigator, is spending more time being like, what do you know about, like, who do you think did it? Like, who would you say? That's what got me to Maddox early on, is that I did basically just say, hey, who do you think would have killed her? Does she have any enemies?
Yeah.
Like, and that got me straight to Maddox, because people were like, I haven't answered that question, and it's probably Maddox. So I definitely did better this arc with that sort of stuff. Maybe better than I'm giving myself credit for. But I think it's still something for me to work on. That's like the next stage of me putting this stuff together.
Maybe.
Is building out those webs between characters and who they think did it and what they think, and that helps me elicit, and also gives you more narrative control over the stuff that you can have prepared for. Like, you might know more where I'm gonna go if you can be like, well, I know that that all of these characters are gonna point to one character, and that means, then you'll go there. Like, I can control your suspicion a little bit more by basically just saying everybody thinks it was this person, and then I know that will become the prevalent thought, and then I can subvert that or sustain that in whatever way I want.
Maybe.
So that, I think, the better I can do it, the more satisfying murder mysteries we can create, because you'll have a bit more understanding, not even control, but just a bit more, understanding of the pacing, a bit more like, oh, I know where it's going to hit, so I know where to put things, I know where to make shifts happen and introduce new people and things like that. Like, I think it's helpful for both of us to have that sort of stuff be more prevalent for me. So I'm going to keep trying to make it more prevalent. I think I did pretty well in this one.
Absolutely. I think it turned out to be quite... It felt smooth. It felt like it was working. It was nice.
So we got a lot of emails in. We got a lot of people saying,
yeah,
I guess it's more so than any other one we've had so far. What were some highlights? Like, what you read more of them than I did. What was the general theme, other than people misspelling Marley's name? What was we've talked a little bit about a lot of people suspected Pearl. What was sort of the general consensus? Or the general feeling? Or was there none? Was everyone super varied?
I think it was interesting how much even the ones who did pinpoint the correct murderer, name notwithstanding, The reasoning behind it and exactly what went down tended to be a little bit malleable in this case. Exactly how business related was it? How personal was it? Exactly what was going on business wise. And I like that a lot of people were questioning this whole business thing. Like, was it going to be about Anthony inheriting the place? Did she think that she was going to inherit the place? Was she going to try to buy it out? What exactly was her motivation there? And the fact that in my head it was always she was planning on leaving and sniping, but now this was new information, so she didn't have to anymore. I thought it was quite nice how people were questioning that and a little confused about what was going on there. They thought something was happening business-wise, but they couldn't quite see it. Because I think there were definitely some people who got that she was connected to Maddox, but not as many. I don't want to say not as many as you might think, because I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, fewer people spotted the connection between Marley and Maddox than did not.
Yes, and I think it was, honestly, in a weird way, I think it's because Marley wasn't silly enough. I think more people would connect Pearl to Maddox. Other than, mostly, I definitely poisoned that well because I was saying, like, I think she's a plant.
Yeah,
I
for
think,
sure.
And so people were like, maybe she is a plant. And then they found someone who could have planted her. And they went, done.
We
that's
did
it.
get at least one Pearl is secretly Maddox's daughter who's
that was
spying.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that theory. But I think that's maybe why people connected a bit more. They were both a bit
Might be
weird.
True.
They're
It's all
both,
your fault.
You know, but also it's your fault because Maddox was too weird and Pearl is a little bit odd and Marley's too normal. But normal and weird is the perfect pairing anyway. So, like, it made sense that they were together.
You gotta try to, like, making a character normal is always a bit of a finicky position. So I really tried to play up her being annoyed at the business thing, because you can't have someone be completely neutral, or that's the most suspicious thing in the world and also the most annoying when they're guilty. So early on I tried to openly play up the whole expensive lotions thing. What a stupid business decision.
Yes, whereas for me, I was so obsessed that it must have been, like...
You thought that was a secret drug ring.
Yeah, like, it was so stupid a business decision. It must have had some evil ulterior motive.
That was another thing that you pointed out, and that a couple of people also thought about, but again, not too many. The idea of exactly what covert thing was Liv up to, besides normal hairdressing stuff, like keeping client lists super privileged and things like that. Whereas for me, that was just, no, she is just hardcore into the business, but that definitely led people to think maybe not.
Mm-hmm. I'm having looked through some of the Discord messages. So
I haven't seen those.
So the people who are listening at home, we have a Discord for all of our shows for Escape This Podcast and Solve This Murder and Play This Game and all the various things that we do. We have a Consume This Media Discord where people can get together and chat and talk with us and each other about what's going on. So in the Solve This Murder channel, people are talking about this show, all with spoiler tags. But yeah, straight away, really early on, we're getting like, here's a theory stolen straight from Bill. I think Pearl was working with, Pearl's a spy working for Maddox. Left the computer unlocked for easy snooping and things like that. Which is partially true in terms of, like, they were in the office trying to snoop when the whole thing happened, or trying to, although we do get the idea here that she's a decoy and actually Marley is the real spy. That was closer to a real guess. Then people making fun of me for talking about famous people and their hairstylists for an entire episode.
Oh no, that stayed.
Yeah, that was like half an episode, Danny. People noticing the Oliver Sacks naming reference.
Oh yes, of course. Again, total mistake. I've got to work harder.
But people really got, like, people loved, like, the Anthony and Pearl connection, the Maddox and Pearl connection, are very much a focus, but not necessarily thinking that Marley is part of it. But I hadn't really talked to Maddox by that point anyway, so people weren't quite sure. Fan art of Maddox.
Yay!
Did you see this one? I think you did.
Ooh. Oh, yep, that's right. Yep, we got
If you ever want to submit fan art of Maddox.
Maddox fan arts, and I am into it. They've been fantastic.
We also have a separate chat full of spoilers for people talking about...
how much they hated the ending?
No, talking about the same thing, but in the place for just Patreons. Because for people who aren't aware, we have a Patreon for people who want to support the show and all the shows that we make. And one of the benefits that we've now started doing, just with this last episode, is that for $5 patrons, they get the entire arc, all 6 parts, on day one. So they can listen to the whole thing. But of course, we don't want them spoiling it for anybody else, so they have a separate channel to talk about that on the Discord.
That was also a fun choice, seeing who decided to binge it and who decided, no, I'm just going to stick to the regular ones. I got to pace it out.
Stick to the regular pace.
That interested me because, yeah, I'm very bad at having to wait, especially for the answer to a mystery. But yeah, people did make good use of it. Even just like we got some people who were binging it, but sending in what they thought about each episode pretty much after each part, with or without a guess. Often holding off on a proper guess until the very end, but just giving me updates as they went along. That was fun to see how people adapted to the new information. Man, some of you guys make thorough notes. Oh, you wrote more about this than any of my initial notes. Good on you.
Someone's theory for how to solve these is everybody's hiding something, so you find out what everybody else is hiding, and then the one left over must be the murderer. Everyone has one hidden fact.
No, that's not. I mean, that may not work because well, it can work depending on whether one person's secret is more damning. But I do come up with a secret for everyone. But like Marley's secret was not murdered thing; it was going to set up rival business.
Exactly.
So
it's all.
Maybe you could have found that out very early on, and maybe you would have just found that as another thing. Maybe I could have kept that as the not too obvious motive, but clearly I wanted that to only come out late.
I do think so, because I think originally in the course of this I had all of the mechanics of the murder and didn't have the motive, and that was the final piece of the puzzle. If I'd had the motive early on, or like possible motives, I think maybe when I had found the mechanics of how it all went down, then that would have been the final piece.
Would have clicked a lot more.
And maybe my final call wouldn't have been the call to the business registrar's office, but it would have been the autopsy call. With America,
I wonder.
Maybe that would have been my secret call. That was I'd be like, this all would make sense, but only if she was like killed in the office at like 1 a.m. Like that would be the thing that would clinch this. And I call and I get that information.
Can't say how well I would have known how to deal with that, but
I mean, it worked out better the way we did it.
Yeah, that said, I do think, again, that may have been why I didn't introduce rival business setting up too early on, but I did show her having some animosity towards Liv for her business practices early on.
And then when we found out
it wasn't so much this is Marley's secret as this is Marley's issue.
Yes, and then like when we found out the big fact of is like, makes sense, because look at back what she was doing. She was cancelling this. She was doing that. You know, it gave her the motivation and the motive for the murder.
Yeah,
it worked very well. But enough prevaricating, Danny. We've got all these fun guesses from lots of cool people.
Oh yes.
Who was our best detective? Who got the closest? Who really nailed the entire? Now, here's a question when it comes to best detective. Do we go for whoever gave the most accurate answer, regardless of when they gave it? Or do we go for someone who was like on the right track early on? So like after one episode, they were like, it was definitely probably Marley, but I'm not quite sure why. And here's what, like, how do we judge best detective?
That would never hold up in court. So while I like it, there was no possible way to get it with the right reasoning or like who was working with whom after one episode, because you didn't even know these characters at all. So yeah, first episode ones, it's tricky. Like I love seeing first impression guesses, but I tend not to take them as someone's final guess. So like it's always fine if you send in further ones after that as you've gotten new information. Obviously I tend to be a little bit biased for whoever gets the correct answer first, but I like to go for most complete details, like who what really exactly happened. Yeah, because like I said, plenty of people got that it was Marley by the end of it, but there were floaty details about exactly what was going on there. The one that I would say came in nice and early, and I think I keep reading through it and I just go, yep, this is solid. There is a lot of information here and it is all spot on, including M for murderer and M for person who worked with the murderer.
Oh, they got it. They understand the game.
So always, if I say any of these, forgive my pronunciation because, you know, who can pronounce anything? Tyler Eberl, well done. You ended your first email with, thank you, I'll take my spot on the wall now.
It looks like they've
I
earned it.
Can't deny that. Like,
all right.
It went really well. Congratulations to you.
All right, wonderful. Good work, Tyler. You've done it. I don't think you've been on the wall before, but I think you have put in guesses before. And hopefully if this is your first time on the wall, we'll update the wall of detectives. There's a link to that in the show notes.
And good work. This is always one of those things where if we weren't being strict about it, there were plenty of people that were in top contention for it.
Look, lots of very good guesses from a lot of fun people. And it's fun just to get the emails. It's nice to have
we
people
love
engaging
it.
with the mystery and we read them all.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Danny didn't respond, I don't know if you responded to all of them.
Look, I probably don't respond to all of them because there's only so many times that I can respond, thanks for emailing. Sorry, I can't say anything.
But no, they're great. So thank you so much. That was a wonderful mystery. I'm excited. The next mystery.
Ooh.
I have no idea where we're at. Obviously, we haven't recorded the next one.
This is as much notes as I have for the next
You've got
mystery.
about a page. Do you have like a
page.
hint to give away, like a theme or something?
Oh.
Look, in terms of timing, everybody, it will be done when it's done. It'll happen. It'll come up out eventually, and then you'll get another solid however many weeks of episodes. But we've got no timetable at all. It could be in 2 weeks. It could be in 6 months. We'll find out.
Yeah, this is regarding a setting. Apparently, I like going into careers that I know nothing about with these stories, so it's definitely one of those. It's one that I was reading a big dramatic internet thing on the subreddit drama.
Oh, all right.
Reddit of, this career was full focus.
What's the career?
Of the drama. It was about, I might have told you about, it's about how other people don't take other people in peripheral professions don't take this particular profession as seriously as they should because their job is totally as important and totally as technical and difficult to do as the other job that more people talk about.
Podcasters. All right, that's the hint, everybody. That's your cryptic hint. If you can guess, you get extra points if you can guess what the theme is going to be. If you can email in and guess the theme,
if you're going to scour Reddit to find that, be my guest.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this arc. It was a lot of fun to do. I really had a lot of fun recording it and putting it all together.
Fingers crossed we maintain that.
Wonderful. All right, thank you, everybody. I'll tell you what, actually, one little thing about the Autopsy. I changed my plans this arc in terms of music production. You may have noticed every other arc that we've had music, every character has had their own particular theme.
Mm-hmm. But you were struggling with that idea for some of them.
Yeah, because for this one, I just didn't feel like I had musical ideas that represented each of the characters as much. It felt a little bit more difficult. So in this case, I just wrote a bunch of different little songs for different emotional moments and stuck them in. Mm-hmm. And I think it worked quite well. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know. If you have no opinion, don't let me know anything. But I think that might be more what I do going forward. It's a bit easier to do and just having music for that arc as opposed to individual music for each character.
Yeah, whatever's gonna work. Like this one had different locations, different settings, that sorts of
so
things.
There's some things I could play with.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Danny, for chatting with me about this arc that we did, and thank you for making it and running it. It was great fun.
Yeah, I really hope that the next one goes as well as this one did. It felt great. All right, and I hope if you are available that you join us for Recon. We put an announcement at the start. So,
yes.
Yep, that is our Monday morning, probably your Sunday night. That is this weekend. So if you haven't got tickets to that, please grab them. Come watch us do a great live show.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Solve This Murder is created by Bill Sunderland and Danny Siller as part of the Consume This Media network. To find out more about all of our shows, you can head to consumethismedia.com. If you want to try your hand at solving this murder yourself, send your current theory in to solvethismurderpod@gmail.com and you may end up on our wall of detectives. A special thank you to Jared, Devon and Whit from the podcast Advanced Sagebrush and Shootouts for creating our theme music. And thanks to all of you for listening.